السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله المتكفل بحفظ عبده في جميع موارده ومجاريه، فهو الذي يطعمه ويسقيه ويحفظه من الهلاك ويحميه ويحرسه بالطعام والشراب أما يهلكه ويرديه، ويمكنه من القناعة بقليل القوت فيكسر به شهوة النفس التي تعاديه ويدفع شرها ثم يعبد ربه ويتقيه. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسول النبي ونبيه الوجيه صلى الله عليه وعلى الأبرار من إترته وأقربيه والأخيار من صحابته وتابعيه. أما بعد، فقد قال الله عز وجل في كتاب العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقول آمنا وهم لا يفتنون. وفي حديث عن أبي ذر رضي الله عنه: أوصاني خليلي صلى الله عليه وسلم بسبع: أوصاني بحب المساكين والدنو منه، وأوصاني أن أنظر إلى من هو دوني ولا أنظر إلى من هو فوقي، وأوصاني أن أصل الرحم وإن أدبرت، وأوصاني أن لا أسأل أحدا شيئا، وأوصاني أن أقول بالحق وإن كان مرا، وأوصاني أن لا أخاف في الله لومة لائم، وأوصاني أن أكثر من قول لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله فإنهن من كنز تحت العرش، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Respected brothers, sisters, elders, those who are listening at home, reflecting on the past year, we can all agree that we have faced some very unexpected circumstances, and many have faced and are still facing harsh situations in their personal lives. When we examine the lives of the great figures of the past, we find that their lives were speckled with unimaginable challenges, that if we were to examine their lives now, we would ask ourselves that how did they get through these challenges? And the question that we have to ask ourselves is that as Muslims, what is the solution? How do we move forward? And the first thing that as Muslims we need to correct is our aqeedah, is our belief on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to have complete and utter reliance upon Allah azza wa jal. Our reliance for anything should always be hinged upon Allah azza wa jal. It has been attributed to Ali radiallahu anhu that he said, "Man i'tamada ala malihi faqad qalla, ومن اعتمد على علمه فقد ضل ومن اعتمد على سلطانه فقد ذل ومن اعتمد على عقله فقد اختل ومن اعتمد على الله فلا ضل ولا قل ولا ذل ولا اختل. Ali radiallahu anh, in this statement, if correct, which is if this statement is correctly attributed to him, he is saying, and it's a profound statement, thought-provoking statement. So he's saying that whoever relies upon his wealth, فَقَدْ قَلَّ, then he will be faced with penury. He will be faced with poverty. Because he's not relying upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's relying upon his wealth to get him out of difficult situations. وَمَنْ اعْتَمَدَ عَلَى عِلْمِهِ فَقَدْ ضَلَّ, and whoever relies upon his knowledge, فَقَدْ ضَلَّ, then he will be misled. He will go astray. He will go astray. If a person relies upon his knowledge, then this individual ultimately, he's going to do something, or he's going to say something where he's going to slip up. And not only is he going to go astray, but he will lead other people astray as well. وَمَنْ اعْتَمَدَ عَلَى سُلْطَانِ فَقَدْ ذَلَّ, and whoever relies upon his dominion, upon his kinship, فَقَدْ ذَلَّ, then this person ultimately, eventually he's going to be disgraced. And we see that throughout the world. And we see that throughout history. That those people who have relied upon dominion, those people who have relied upon kinship, فَقَدْ ذَلَّ, they were disgraced. Simply because they thought they were too big. They thought that nothing can harm me. My kingship is going to protect me. My dominion is going to protect me. وَمَنْ اعْتَمَدَ عَلَى عَقْلِ فَقَدْ اخْتَلَّ, and whoever relies upon his aql, whoever relies upon his rationale, فَقَدْ اخْتَلَّ, then that individual is going to become deranged ultimately. That he's going to keep on questioning and questioning and questioning until finally he questions something about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and as a result, he is going to be led into the pits of Jahannam. وَمَنْ اعْتَمَدَ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَلَا ضَلَّ وَلَا قَلَّ وَلَا ذَلَّ وَلَا اخْتَلَّ, but those people who rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَلَا ضَلَّ, they will not be misguided. وَلَا قَلَّ, they will not be faced with penury. They will not be faced with poverty. وَلَا ذَلَّ, they will not be disgraced. وَلَا اخْتَلَّ, and they will not become deranged. Their aql will not lead them astray, because ultimately they will submit to the wahy. They will submit to the revelation of Allah Azza wa Jal. When our trust for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is unwavering, and our devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is unflinching, and when we face our trials with good character, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not only protect us, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will honor us beyond our imagination. And we don't need to look far than the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about His pious servants. Throughout the entire Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about His pious servants. If we take the example of Maryam alayhi salatu wasalam, look at the different challenges she faced. Look at the different hurdles she faced. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about her in the highest terms and says, وَاصْطَفَاكِ عَلَى نِسَاءِ الْعَالَمِينَ, that we chose you over all of the women. All of the women of the world, we chose you. So she was accused of being unchaste. She was accused of being unchaste. Throughout her entire life was devoted to the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then when people point fingers at you and they accuse you of something that you never did, imagine the feelings that she must have been going through. Imagine this challenge. Imagine this hurdle. But yet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exonerated her. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exonerated her, and she became one of the successful servants of Allah Azza wa Jal. To the extent that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاصْطَفَاكِ عَلَى نِسَاءِ الْعَالَمِينَ, we chose you over all of the women of the world. And this is just one example. This is just one example of Maryam alayhi salatu wasalam, where she passed, where whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in front of her, whatever challenges Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in front of her, those challenges were met with patience, devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, unwavering and unflinching devotion to Allah Azza wa Jal. So we see examples like this throughout the Quran. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam advised Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu of 7 things to attain success. If we want the success that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to the pious people that are mentioned in the Quran, the prophets who are mentioned in the Quran, the pious servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who are mentioned in the Quran, then this hadith, it encapsulates everything. this hadith where the Prophet ﷺ advised Abu Dhar that you adhere to these 7 things and you will be successful. I mean, this is something that you and I, we desire. We want success. We want success in the hereafter. We want success in this world. So the Prophet ﷺ advised Abu Dhar radiallahu anh, of 7 things to attain success. And if we read the life of Abu Dhar, it comes in the Seerah books that he was possibly the 5th convert. He was possibly the 5th convert to Islam. And Abu Dhar was that individual that he took the advices of the Prophet ﷺ to heart. And this was the habit of all of the Sahaba. This was the habit of all of the Sahaba. Whatever they heard from Rasulullah ﷺ, they would put it into practice. They took it seriously and they were dutiful when it came to putting it into practice. So Abu Dhar radiallahu anh, he narrates the hadith. He says that Amarani Khalili, Awsani Khalili bisab'in, that my friend Rasulullah ﷺ, he advised me of 7 things. He advised me of 7 things. Amarani bihubbil masakin, that he advised me to love the masakin, to love the destitute, وَالدُّنُوِ min, and to be close to them. To be close to them. And if we look at the life of Abu Dhar, we read about his biography, we see that the masakin, they loved Abu Dhar. Which means that he took this advice of Rasulullah ﷺ to heart. So he was constantly and consistently in the company of the masakin. وَأَمَرَنِي أَنْ أَنْظُرَ إِلَى مَنْ هُوَ دُونِي وَلَا أَنْظُرَ إِلَى مَنْ هُوَ فَوْقِي. And the Prophet ﷺ advised me that I look at people who are below me in economic status, and that I should not look at people above me in economic status. What is the reasoning behind this? Because a person will be perpetually doing shukr. He will consistently express gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That if we look at people above us, we will never be content. But if we look at people below us, we will always be content. We will always be content. وَأَمَرَنِي أَنْ أَصِلَ الرَّحِمْ وَإِنْ أَدْبَرَتْ. This is amazing. That the Prophet ﷺ advised me that I preserve the ties of kinship, وَإِنْ أَدْبَرَتْ, even if my family turns away from me. Even if my family turns away from me. It's easy, brothers and sisters, to reciprocate goodness with goodness. This is very simple. We can all do it. Someone is good to you, you're going to be good back. Right? This is how it works. So it's very easy to reciprocate goodness with goodness. But it takes a very strong person to reciprocate bad with good. It takes a very strong person. Because what happens? We have to suppress our ego at that time. We have to suppress our ego at that time. And sometimes that is very difficult to suppress our ego. But if we do this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is one of the recipes for success in this world and in the life hereafter. A family member who shuns you, who doesn't give you time of day, never rings, never asks about you. You go out of your way and you ring that person. You ask about him. Wallahi, this is salvation for this person in this world and in the hereafter. And sometimes when we go to our countries, we might visit the family members who are prosperous. And we forget about the family members who are not as prosperous. And this is against the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is against the spirit of Islam. That all of our family members, they are our family members. We have a responsibility to them. We have a responsibility to them. We have to make sure that we maintain the ties of kinship, that we preserve the ties of kinship. This is what Silatul Rahim means. That even those family members who are distant, from us, that we go out of our way to connect with them. This is what Silatul Rahim means. Silatul Rahim doesn't mean that we reciprocate goodness with goodness. Silatul Rahim means that we reciprocate based on just them being our family. That we stay connected to them simply because they are our family. And not because they're prosperous, but simply because they are our family members. This is an advice that Abu Dhar radiallahu anh, he took to heart. We have to make attempts, brothers and sisters, to improve ourselves. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to see. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to see our effort, and that we make an effort. That we make some kind of effort. That when it comes to Islam, we are making effort. Every single day, we are doing some kind of juhud. We are doing some kind of mujahada for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. But nowadays, people are concerned that, I need to change other people. I need to change other people, and I have to tell other people whatever they need to do so far as Islam is concerned, and then we forget ourselves. Imam Rumi, rahmatullah alayhi, the great sage of Islam, he would say that yesterday I was clever. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. And today I am wise, so I'm changing myself. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. But today I am wise, so I'm changing myself. So it starts with us. We need to change ourselves first and foremost. And then we can have this hope of changing other people. If we change ourselves, then people around us, they too will change. They will look and they will change for the better. The hadith continues, وَأَمَرِنِي أَنْ لَا أَصَلَ أَحَدًا شَيْئًا. And the Prophet ﷺ advised me that I don't ask anyone for anything. And this was how Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu, he lived his entire life. He never asked anyone for anything. He would always turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would always turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was a zahid. He had complete disinclination from any kind of material. Complete disinclination from any kind of material. وَأَمَرِنَا أَقُولِ الْحَقَّ وَإِنْ كَانَ مُرًّا. And the Prophet ﷺ advised me that I always speak the truth, even if that truth may be bitter. Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu, he always spoke the truth. And we know his story, that he confronted Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, he confronted Uthman radiallahu anhu, and said to them what he considered to be the truth, even if people found it bitter, even if the Sahaba found it bitter. And sometimes our relationships with people will deter us from speaking the truth. Sometimes our relationships with people will deter us. It will stop us from speaking the truth. But this is not the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is not the way of the Sahaba. I'm reminded of one of the great Hanafi scholars of Transoxiana, Mawara'un Nahar. This area is past the Oxus River, present day Iran and Turkmenistan, where Abu Bakr as-Sarakhsi, he's imprisoned in a well because he spoke out against the governor of that region. So he's imprisoned in this makeshift well, and this is where he did his imla. So while he was in this well, he's doing imla, he's dictating to his students a book which comprises about 20 volumes. Imagine, he's in the well, and he's dictating a book from this well to his students. And this man, this is an individual who's only imprisoned because he said something about the governor. The governor wanted him to say something. The governor of that area wanted him to say something that is favorable. So what did he do? He did the complete opposite and said what he felt the truth to be. So he was imprisoned as a result, and he stayed there for many years. He was in this well. For many years he was in this well. One can read his biography online. This is a very common thing. Then we have Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, who was under house arrest because the Khalif of the time, Ma'mun Rashid, he was subjecting people to different types of torture. The whole mihna, this is an inquisition. This was the inquisition that took place in Islam, where the Khalif of that time, he had sided with the Mu'tazila. He had sided with the Mu'tazila, who believed in the createdness of the Quran. That the Quran is not qadim, it's not pre-eternal. Just as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pre-eternal, so is His speech. The speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala azza wa jal, this is also pre-eternal. So the Mu'tazila, they believe the Quran to be created. So Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, rahmatullah alayh, of course, he sided with the Aqidah and the doctrine of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And because of that, he was imprisoned. He was under house arrest for many years. He could not even narrate hadith. He could not even narrate hadith. This is a man that he has a 50-volume book just on hadith. This is a man who has a 50-volume book on hadith. So scholars, they were punished, they were imprisoned, they were killed in the time of Ma'mun Rashid. Because why? They spoke the truth. These men, they spoke the truth. They never shied away from speaking the truth. Even if it meant that they were going to be tortured. Even if it meant that they were going to be faced with different types of impediments. Different types of hurdles. The hadith continues, وَأَمَرِنِ أَلَّا خَافْ لَوْمَةَ لَائِمٍ. And the Prophet ﷺ advised me that I should not fear the rebuke of any person. That don't fear what people will say about us. We should always speak the truth. We spend our lives worrying about what people are going to think, what people are going to say. Whereas we should be worried about our position with Allah Azza wa Jal. Hypothetically, if we were to depart from this world tomorrow, would we be in a situation where we are lamenting that, you know what, I should have said this at that time, at that juncture, instead of just exercising silence and letting things go the way they were going? No, we have to speak the truth. This is our job as Muslims. And we should not shy away from the truth at any time. But what happens is that we are busy with pleasing people and not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the reality. This is a harsh reality. That we're busy with pleasing people, we're not busy with pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can say and convey the truth in an amicable manner. Who's talking about that we need to argue and we need to fight? We can convey the truth in an amicable manner. Allama Rumi rahmatullah alayhi says that raise your words, not your voice. Raise your words, not your voice. It is rain that grows flowers, not thunder. This is amazing. He's a master in giving examples. So he says that raise your words, not your voice. It is rain that grows flowers, not thunder. Correct our hearts. If we are going to advise someone, then first and foremost we should correct our hearts. Take out whatever is in our hearts for that person. Take out whatever is in our hearts for that person. If there's any type of ill feeling towards that person, then we should not advise that individual. First and foremost, we should take out whatever is in our hearts, and then our words will reflect our heart. If our heart is pure, if our heart is clean for that individual, our words will reflect our hearts. One of our pious predecessors, he would say that our hearts, they gather dust like books on a shelf, and we are in constant need of dusting. We are in constant need of dusting. We need to act with wisdom. We need to act with foresight. We need to speak with wisdom. We need to speak with foresight. Ibn al-Qayyim, rahmatullah alayhi, he says, الحكمة إذا فعل ما ينبغي على الوجه الذي ينبغي في الوقت الذي ينبغي. Allah, this is just amazing. Wisdom is to act as one should, in a manner that one should, in the time that one should. This is the statement of Ibn al-Qayyim Jawzi. Right? We need to return to deen. Return to religion, return to our roots, return to Islam, return to the Quran, return to the Sunnah. I mean, we can't become, we watch Ghazi or Tughran on Netflix or YouTube or wherever we are watching. And we think that, okay, I'm watching this and this is a good show and everything. But if the show isn't motivating us to come to the masjid, then it's not really beneficial, is it? If it's not motivating us, Ghazi or Tughran, he didn't become Ghazi by sitting at home. He went out and he put in the time. He put in the effort. But, we're always talking about Ghazi or Tughran. If we want to be like Ghazi or Tughran, then we're going to have to get up, go to the masjid, pick up the Quran, read what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell us. This man was the one who laid the foundation of the Uthmani Dawla, of the Ottoman Empire. And it flourished for 6 centuries. But we think that, okay, I'm doing my part just by going on Netflix and watching Ghazi or Tughran and learning about whatever he did. No, we have to at least do whatever he did. Put in the time, put in the effort. وَأَمَرِنَا أَكْثِرْ مِنْ قَوْلِ لَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ فَإِنَّهُنَّ مِنْ كَنْزٍ تَحْتَ الْعَرْشِ. Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu continues, and he says that the Prophet ﷺ, he advised me that I excessively recite لَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. That there is no power, there is no might besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this is a treasure from beneath the arsh. That we have to do dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With our efforts, there has to be dhikr. With our physical efforts, there needs to be spiritual efforts as well. So our physical efforts are one thing, but there needs to be spiritual efforts as well, and dhikr is the strongest spiritual effort. The Prophet ﷺ is commanded by Allah Azza wa Jal to offer prayer at night. He's a prophet. Rasulullah ﷺ is the prophet of Allah. And yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is commanding him, قُمِ اللَّيْلَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. No, stand up at night even if it's for a little bit. Even if it's for a little bit, stand at night. Brothers and sisters, time is short and there's a lot to do. We have to take advantage of this year and make a change for the sake of Islam in our lives. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونشكره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وصحبه والاه أما بعد عباد الله فإني أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله العلي العظيم القائل في محكم كتابه يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة عليها ملائكة غلاظ شداد لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون واعلموا أن الله أمركم بأمر عظيم أمركم بالصلاة والسلام على نبي الكريم فقال إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد يقول الله تعالى يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم إن زلزلة الساعة شيء عظيم يوم ترونها تذهل كل مرضية أما أرضعت وتضع كل ذات حمل حملها وترى الناس سكارى وما هم بسكارى ولكن عذاب الله شديد اللهم إنا دعوناك فاستجب لنا دعانا فاغفر اللهم لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم اجعلنا هداة مهتدين غير ضالين ولا مضلين اللهم استر عوراتنا وآمن روعاتنا واكفنا ما همنا وقنا شر ما نتخوف اللهم اجعل اجتماعنا هذا اجتماعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعض تفرقا معصوما ولا تجعل فينا ولا معنا شقيا ولا محروما اللهم تقبل منا صلاتنا وقيامنا وركوعنا وسجودنا وتقبل منا صالح أعمالنا واجعلنا من المقبولين في الدنيا والآخرة ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما اللهم اجعل أولادنا أبرارا أتقياء وأنبتهم في الإسلام نباتا حسنا اللهم اصلح ديننا كله اللهم اصلح شأننا كله اللهم اجعل آخر كلامنا من الدنيا لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروا يزدكم واستغفروا يغفر لكم واتقوا يجعل لكم من أمركم مخرجا. One announcement: everyone is requested to make dua for Khadir Fatima.